7th, 2025. So if there could be changes in the future with respect to immigration, so just be mindful of that. And if you could just hold on one moment, I'm going to share my screen and share with you our presentation for today. Here we go. Let's put this on presentation mode. Okay, so here we are. We're going to be looking at study permit application from outside of Canada. So this is for students who are clearly not here in Canada and they're applying from outside. There are two immigration advisors here at the Wong International Centre. Janet Harnham, she is not in today, but she is an a student immigration advisor and can also assist you on matters as well as myself. Okay. So overview, we're going to be looking at the requirements. So who needs a study permit and what do you need to get one? We're also going to be looking at the study permit and your entrance requirements. So that could be a temporary resident visa. It could be other documents as well. We're going to look at the application or the applying process in order to get you to where you need to be, which is getting a study permit and starting Acadia on time. We're also going to be looking at processing times, which is always a concern for students. We're going to be also talking about working in Canada and what that means to you as an international student. Some commonly asked questions, and we're going to direct you to where our YouTube channel is, where you can find this video and other videos for you in order to help you navigate the immigration system here in Canada. And as Sadia mentioned, at the end, please save your questions because then we'll take questions. So add them in the chat and we will address them then. Okay. So requirements. So if you are coming to Canada to study for a degree, a program that's longer than 6 months, I'm assuming the majority of you are, you absolutely need a study permit to get here into study. So you're going to need to apply for that. In addition to the study permit, every foreign national will also need an entrance document, and there's two types. There's a temporary resident visa, which is a sticker in your passport. A lot of students have this one, and it's based on their country of citizenship. Or it could be an electronic travel authorization. And there are some citizens who are considered visa exempt because of their country. So they don't need that sticker in the passport, but they need this other one. And that one is electronic. You can't see it, but it's tied to your application. The good thing about these entrance documents, both the temporary resident visa and the electronic travel authorization, is that when you're applying for your study permit, they are automatically given to you and they will decide which one that you need. So you don't need to apply again. Okay, so keep that in mind. When you apply for your study permit, you will also receive your entrance document at the same time. And here is an opportunity for you to see what it look like. So this is what an actual study permit looks like. It's literally an 8.5 by 10 piece of paper, as you can see here. And it's issued to you. Of course, you apply for it. And when you're home, you get an approval that's been approved. But the actual permit itself is issued to you at the border when you first arrive in Canada. Okay. Temporary resident visa, for those of you from visa required countries, if your study permit gets approved, they will request your passport. You will send it to the office they identify in your letter, and they will post a stamp in your passport and send the passport back to you. And this is what it looks like. I'll have dates here that you need to be mindful of. Always be mindful of those expiry dates, especially the study permit. As I mentioned earlier, the ETA, or the electronic travel authorization, it's electronic, so you can't see it. It's tied to your passport. So if you change your passport, you need to apply for a new one. The validity of an ETA is always 5 years. So those of you from visa exempt countries, this is what you're going to get. You're going to get an ETA tied to your passport. You can't see it, and it's fine. Easy to apply for, but of course, as we know, when you apply for the study permit, they will automatically issue it to you and attach it to your passport. There have been many changes with immigration, considerable, and some of them took place in 2024 and some in 2025. But the ones that you need to know about that impact you and your study permit application are the following. With respect to living expenses, the Canadian government now has identified how much they are looking for 1 year of living expense. And living expenses is everything like rent, food, transportation, clothing, miscellaneous items. It does not include tuition. Okay. So for 1 year, the Canadian government identifies 20,635 Canadian. Okay. So that is the amount that they're looking for per year. Okay. Of course, if you are an older student or if you're married and have dependents, that amount is going to increase. Okay. So you need to be mindful when you are preparing your documentation to show proof that you have adequate funding to support your tuition and living expenses. You need to keep that amount in mind. Okay. So that was a significant change, and it took place in January 1st of 2024. So moving forward, all study permit applications, both initial study permit applications or study permit extensions, you still need to demonstrate that. Okay. A new addition as well is called a provincial letter of attestation. So every study permit, initial study permit, needs to include a provincial letter of attestation, whether you're in an undergraduate program or a graduate program. You require one, and the university, Acadia University, will issue you one after you finish the admissions process. And we'll learn a little bit more about that in a couple of seconds, couple of minutes. Okay. So just to let you know a little bit more about this PAL, or provincial attestation letter, the provinces and territories in Canada issue these to international students, and these letters serve as proof that the student has been counted for under the provincial and territorial allocation within the cap. As you may have heard, the Canadian government back in 2024 identified a certain amount of students only can come to Canada and study. And the mechanism in order for them to control the amount of students that come in is through these PALs, these provincial letters of attestation. So that's how they do that. If required, and you are required, a PAL must be included in your study permit application when you submit it, and there will be in your application, you will see there is a section that prompts you to upload your provincial letter of attestation. If you want to learn more about this, we do have the website here link, and then you can access that. So who needs a PAL? Essentially, at this point in time, everyone needs a PAL unless you're a visiting exchange student. You do not need a PAL, okay, if you're here for a long period of time. So the majority of students, anyone applying for a study permit first-time application, as of January 22nd onwards, you need one, okay? Non-degree students, non-degree granting students, you also need one as well. Individuals who don't need one, and there's very few who don't need one, there is a list and it's located down here at the bottom. But I'm pretty confident that the majority of you do require a PAL. If you are uncertain, you can always touch base with the registrar's office here at Acadia Admissions, and they'll be happy to assess whether you require a PAL or not. So how to get a PAL? This is very important. So there is several steps that you need to be mindful of, 5 steps for an offer student to study at Acadia. Of course, you submit your offer response form. found in your offer letter. So be mindful of that. You do need to pay your deposit. Okay. It's 5,000 Canadian, and there are various ways to pay that. You can check the website and get directions there. Then you submit your provincial attestation letter consent form on the portal. So you can do that online. It's very easy. You can do that at any time. And then once that is processed, you receive your provincial letter of attestation from Acadia through your status portal, and then you can apply for your study permit. Okay. And of course, once that study permit is approved, we are very happy and we wish you congratulations, of course, in joining Acadia. Of course, there is a chance that sometimes applications can be refused, and we will definitely can assist you. So please reach out to the Wong International Center with respect to that. But of course, you should know, of course, that you will receive your refund back in the event if it is refused. Okay. So when to apply? So there are certain documents you first need before you can start that study permit application, and these are the 3 key documents. So you need to absolutely have your letter of admission or a letter of acceptance to Acadia University. You absolutely require your provincial letter of attestation, unless of course you're exempt, but pretty confident you all need one. And lastly, you do need to have documentation to prove that you have enough funds to study and live at Acadia in Wolfville. And it's not just showing proof of funds, but you also need to show where your funding support is coming from. That's also very important. In order to secure and submit a strong application, showing where your support for funding is coming from is very important. It ensures, of course, it helps with the study permit probability of it being approved, but also the length of your study permit. The stronger application you submit, the longer you can get your study permit for. And the ideal here is getting, if you're an undergrad student, full 4 years, maybe a little bit more if you're in a co-op program. And that's what your goal is to apply for one study permit that will take you throughout your entire academic experience at Acadia. Other things to consider when you apply, you must apply for your initial study permit. I mentioned co-ops. So if you are in a co-op program, for example, if you're starting your Bachelor's of Education at Acadia, definitely need a co-op because you're going to be doing placements. You're doing a a dietitian program. You're also going to be in field placement or work experience. You can apply for that co-op permit, or in this case, request it when you're applying for the initial study permit. In the application itself, it will ask you, is work a required part of your program? And if you enter yes and have documentation from Acadia that indicates you are absolutely in a co-op program or a work integrated learning program, then they will also assess you for a co-op permit. So if your application's been approved, not only do you receive a study permit, but you also receive a co-op permit as well. As I mentioned earlier, processing times can be long. They vary from country to country, and it is possible that there are delays. So if you find yourself in that situation, be mindful of that. Reach out to your department, to the Wong International Center, because it could impact your arrival. And of course, we are hoping that you all start on time. Arriving late is not an option. It does not support a really good start here at Acadia if you arrive late. Okay. So as we mentioned, where to apply. So right now, at this point in time, IRCC wants everyone to apply online. That is the preferred portal, unless you have technical or you have learning disability issues that prevents you from that. You can do it by paper, but it will be extremely long in terms of not only documentation, but processing time. So ideally, online application, and I strongly recommend that. For those of you who do want to do it in person, your option is, of course, to go to the visa application center nearest to you in your home country. There could be additional fees if you are going to go through that route, because this is a third party organization that will charge you extra fees for that. Okay. Prepare your application. So it all begins with creating your account in the immigration website. So you create a GCP, and I'll ask Sadia, but hopefully this presentation can be available to you with the links that are live. And then it'll connect you to the proper URL site where you can create your account. It will, after answering questions on the online portal, and the way you answer them, the computer system will generate a study permit application for you with a document checklist that outlines all the forms that you need to complete, but also all the documents that you need to submit. And as you can see here, these are some of the standard documents. So your passport, valid passport, a digital photo, of course, your letter of admission, your Pell, financial support, absolutely. If you're being sponsored by an agency or by your home country, you will submit that letter of support. And of course, depending on your country and where you're applying from, there could be additional documentation that's very specific to you because of where you currently live. So gathering these documentation, you do need to do that. You have once you open up your account and begin your application, you have approximately 30 days to submit the application. You does not allow for multiple documents to be uploaded, so you have to merge them together. For example, your financial documents most likely will have more than one. You need to merge them all together in the PDF. Be mindful that the size limit is 4 megabytes. All documents must be in French and English. Anything else needs to be translated by a certified English translator. Another point here is that if you are showing proof of funds in your home currency, also advisable to put it in Canadian currency at that point in time. The immigration officer is not going to do the exchange currency for you. You have to provide that to the officer. So very important to do that. Your application will also include additional documentation. This study plan or letter of intent, even though it's not mandatory, it is strongly recommended that you create this letter or this study plan, which essentially outlines what your purpose is in coming here to Acadia. Why Acadia? Why are you doing your Bachelor of Science here? Why have you not done it back home instead of here? So you really have to demonstrate and go beyond a letter of admission to show what is your purpose in coming to Canada. Maybe it's more than just academics. Maybe it has to do with your career goals and what you're hoping to achieve. So keep that in mind, okay? You also may require a medical exam. The majority of all students coming to Canada will require one. You may be also requested to complete a family form, and that's pretty straightforward. They're looking for information on your parents, mom and dad, and siblings, and if you have a spouse or a common law partner or children, you would indicate that in that form. If Schedule 1 may be required of you, depending on your situation, and that's usually individuals who've served in the military or government organizations. And of course, if you're married or you have a common law partner, you may need to include additional information if that dependent is coming with you. So what is a study plan? We've taken this opportunity to write out some of those key things that the immigration officer is looking for. I'm not going to go into it in detail here, but as you can see, it's very extensive. You're really demonstrating not only your purpose of coming, but also, long-term goals. your reasons for choosing Canada as opposed to maybe the UK, for example. And in this as well, you're going to be also showing ties at the same time to your home country. And that is very important if you wish to receive a study permit. Okay? I'm sure some of you have heard about ties to your country. So it is very important that we do this and demonstrate this. And in that as well, and I encourage all students to say this literally in their letters, is to say that you will abide by study permit conditions and leave at the end of your authorized stay if you don't, renew your document any further. So that always helps. Of course, mentioning your financial support is also very important. You must include that in there as well. And of course, your post-graduation plans, okay, which you're hoping to achieve after your studies at Acadia. Okay, financial support. This is one of the most scrutinized pieces, I think, of the study permit application, in addition to your admission. But showing proof of support is very important, and sometimes it will make the difference with your application. So listing all the sources of your financial support, documentation that you have there. I always recommend a summary spreadsheet. It makes it extremely easy for the officer or even for the online AI system to read it, because it clearly outlines your sources of support, the amount, and the documentation you have. And this helps make it much easier to assess your application. So this is just an example of what you can include in your application. So if you have a scholarship, if you have savings, if your parents are supporting you, maybe you have a GIC, you list the document. And for those of you, and this is a tip, for those of you with parental support, especially for those who are undergraduate students, having a letter of support from your parents that clearly indicates in that letter that they are supporting you financially while you complete your degree at Acadia. And in that letter, they identify how they are supporting you financially. Where is their source of funding? So that is very important. And of course, having support documentation for that is critical. So as you can see there, the home currency is indicated, but then the amount in Canadian dollars there is converted. This makes it very easy for the officer to read and make a thorough assessment without any confusion. So once you've prepared your application, there are also going to be some forms for you to fill out, and these are immigration forms, and they tend to be called IMM forms, and they have numbers after them. So the IMM 1294 is for an initial study permit outside of the country. You do need to fill that out online. And you don't sign it, you just type your name, and then you need to validate the document. There's a little button on the bottom or the top that validate. When it validates, a series of barcodes are created, 6th page. And that's how the computer system reads it, because when it reads the barcodes and inputs the information into the system. So very important that you complete that form and submit it, and that the verification process is done correctly. Any sort of errors, anything missing, it won't validate. So be careful. If you're having issues or challenges, please reach out to as best as we can. This is what it looks like. And it's a PDF document with encryption. Does require an Adobe Acrobat reader. Not an easy thing to download. So try to do your best. They do give you guidelines. When your online system prompts you to complete it, it will give you guidelines on how to save it and then open it up and fill it out. Okay. So once you upload that form and all of that supporting documentation, your fee, you need to pay $150 Canadian fee. Of course, those are not the only fees that you're going to be paying. You're also going to be paying a fee for biometrics. As shortly after you submit your study permit application, you'll receive a letter asking you to go to a collection area, and they will tell you where they are, and that's where you have your fingerprints and your eye scan done. Okay. One very important point is that after you submit your application, there are times when immigration needs to, I need an extra document, or I couldn't read this one, please submit another document. And when they do that, they prompt you to go to they send you an email. It's a very generic email saying there's something in your account, go check it out. It's pretty much what they say. You go to your account, you open it up, there's a message there. You click on the letter and they'll tell you, written in that immigration legal language that maybe you need to submit another document. And they always give you a date, deadline, usually 7 days. If it's not submitted within that period of time, I can assure you your study permit will be refused. If you submit it late, they don't care. You have to submit it within the deadline. If you don't, it's going to compromise your academics and your program start. After you apply, like I mentioned, you're going to have to get your fingerprints done, and photo taken, your eye scan. Costs 85 Canadian. Just to let you know. Some of you, of course, will require a medical exam. Not just any medical exam. It has to be done by an identified IRCC panel physician. So be mindful of that. Some of you also need to do a police certificate report, and they will prompt you to do it. You don't have to do it right now. Just wait for them to prompt you to do that. Okay. Delays, as I mentioned, processing times can vary. So my advice to you is to apply as soon as you gather all your documents. Classes begin September 4th. So that is your date. Ideally, of course, arriving a little bit early would be better. Help you to settle into maybe residence or find an apartment to live. If that is something that you're thinking of, especially looking for accommodations off campus, even arriving a month early would be good, because it can be a little bit challenging looking for an apartment and getting yourself settled before you begin your studies. Any issues with delays or you're not going to make it on time, please reach out to the admissions office. Their email is here, admissions@acadiau.ca. You could also defer if you want to, maybe you can't make it in September, but maybe you can make it in January. You can go to the Acadia status portal and you can defer there or make that request, or of course you can well, okay. Always good to check in with your academic department as well, especially for those of you in very professional key programs such as education and nutrition. They would definitely love to hear from you. Please come to Acadia. So when you do get, hopefully, your study permit approval, you will get a letter, and that letter is like an introduction letter. They call it a port of entry letter sometimes, but essentially that letter, and it tells you that you need to present this to the officer when you first arrive. So when you first arrive, it's not when you arrive in Halifax, but when you first land in Canada, and that could be Montreal, it could be at the Toronto airport, it could be in Vancouver airport. But that place where you first land, you're going to present your letter of approval to the officer, along with other documentation that we'll mention in a bit. And this letter, of course, will identify that your study permit was approved, maybe also your co-op permit was approved, and then it will be issued to you right there. This is what kind of looks like. This is what it will be. And when you receive it, of course, you'll get an email message saying, please go into your account, because there's a message there. And the message could be this, that your letter of approval has been received, which is wonderful. Very important letter. Do not lose it. Either keep it as a digital copy on your phone, download it, or print it off to show the officer. It has key information in here, but the most important thing is that it says your application to study in Canada has been approved, which is wonderful news to hear after months of waiting. So your arrival in Canada, as I mentioned, in addition to that letter, bringing your Acadia admissions letter, your acceptance letter, provincial letter of attestation, proof of funds. Bring it with you again. An officer likes to see everything again. It'll take them about 5 to 7 minutes to review everything again. If you happen to have already registered for classes, you could also bring the confirmation verification of enrollment, which would be nice too, if you have it. If not, that's okay. But those other documents are very critical to show to the immigration officer when you first arrive. Okay. When you first arrive in Canada, as I mentioned, it's depending on where you land, that's where you get all your documentation. If, and most of you will have transit flights, make sure you have enough time between transiting from one flight to the other, especially if you're arriving in Toronto and then your Halifax flight, you're not going to make the Halifax flight if you've only given yourself 1 hour to transit from your international flight to your Halifax bound flight. Give yourself more time. Immigration during September and August in any of the international airports here in Canada is extremely busy. The lineups are long and it will take time. So give yourself quite a few hours to get through that immigration examination because you do not want to miss your Halifax flight. Because if you do, they don't care. You're going to end up paying for another flight. So make sure you build in that time, okay? While you're there with the immigration officer and they give you the study permit, look at the study permit. Make sure that your name is right, the date of birth is right, that your school name is right. It happens that mistakes happen all the time. So if you find a mistake at that point in time, that's where you can get it corrected immediately by the officer. If you miss it, trust me, having a document updated for like an error mistake, like your birth date at your name, takes months to do, months. So make sure that you take at least a couple of minutes and just read it over. And if there is an issue, to bring it to the attention of the officer. Okay. The other thing that's really important, and we used to get a lot of students coming that did not have work conditions listed on their study permit. Very important, especially if you're looking to work here as well. You must have this on your study permit. If you are enrolled and then accepted into a degree program at Acadia, you should have one of these on your study permit. If you do not, absolutely mention it to the officer. If you don't have it, it's great to get it done there because if you don't catch it there, it's going to take you months to have that corrected. And while you're waiting, you cannot work until the new study permit is issued with the new conditions written. So working in Canada, as I mentioned, there are programs here in Canada and at Acadia that have a work integrated learning. Sometimes it's called co-op or internship placement or field placement, clinical placement. Essentially, they're the same. It's a work integrated learning component, and it's a requirement of the job of the program. You require a co-op permit for that. And if you are in that program, make sure that you request it, get a letter of support, and it's issued to you. That special work permit is only to be used for that type of work that is approved by Acadia. It's not to be used for any other work whatsoever. So some frequently asked questions, how much money do I need to show? And we discussed this a little while ago. It's imperative to show that you have strong financial support. And evidence, most Canadian immigration officers interpret evidence of sufficient funds to mean, showing your bank statement, activity bank statements, that you have funds in your account. And essentially the amount that you're going to be showing is your tuition plus that $20,635. Now, you don't need to show tuition for the full 4 years or the full 2 years if you're doing a graduate program. You just need to show it for 1 year. However, it's absolutely imperative that you show that you have access to more funding. So that's where your proof of resources, where's your financial support coming from, is very important. Okay. So keep that amount in mind when you're gathering your documentation. Of course, if you have dependents coming with you, that 20,635 goes up dramatically, as you can see. So if you are bringing a dependent, spouse, a common law partner, and a child, you'll see that you need to show 31,500 per year. Okay. Examples to show proof of financial support. There's tons of them out there, and this is just a small list. It's not an exhaustive list. So if you have anything coming from Acadia, absolutely include that. Scholarships, bursaries, teaching assistant positions, you name it. Bank statements from your parents, of course, a sponsorship letter is ideal. Maybe it's from family members here in Canada. Your family member needs to show, where's their support coming from? Are they employed? Do they have their own business? So an employment letter, proof of ownership, perhaps. Maybe you've received a student loan from your home country or from a bank back home. That's also a source of financial support. Parents, if they have property, and this is how they are supplementing their finances in order to support you, that information needs to be included. Of course, if you happen to pay your tuition a year ahead of time, that's also proof as well. So keep a receipt, and then you can submit that in your application as well. Once again, this is just an example of a summary of what your financial support is, and this makes it really easy for the officer to assess your application. Okay. Sometimes we do get questions of students who are between the ages of 18 and 17, and they're not sure whether they need a custodian or a guardian in order to get a study permit, because it'll prompt you. But the regulations changed a long, long time ago, and it said that if you're between 18 and 17, it is now at the discretion of the officer. Unless you're 16 and under, you absolutely need a custodian. Okay. So what we recommend is that if you are between the ages of 18 and 17, absolutely you should be living in residence at Acadia. Absolutely. And with that information, so if you apply to residence and you get in and you have a document saying that you are going to be, you've been accepted to Acadia and you're planning to live in residence, and you have that letter to support that, you can use that to convince the officer that you do not need a custodian because you're going to be living on campus. And living in residence is an ideal environment for you of an individual between the ages of 18 and 17. There is 24-hour support. There's, health clinic on campus. You have access to support services, including residence life staff that are there to assist you. And so far, all of the students that I've ever known who lived in residence, whether it was at Acadia or other universities here in Nova Scotia, all of them did not require a custodian if they were living in. So if you're 18 or 17, live in residence, and you'll probably also enjoy it quite a bit. I know I did when I first came. Okay, so can my spouse or common law partner or child apply with me to come to Canada? Absolutely. So if you're a graduate student or an undergrad who does have dependents, and when I mean dependents, I mean spouse, common law partner, or children, you can absolutely include them in your application. The online portal will ask you, do you want to submit an application for a family member? And you just clearly indicate yes, and it will take you through the steps. Okay, so what you should do if your study permit is refused, hopefully it won't, but you should contact us and hopefully we can give you some support, or call. If you have issues applying for the PAL or the deposit, or you're not sure if you're exempt or not, who can help you? The admissions office. So please email them at admissions@acadiau .ca, and with the details of your application. Also include your student number so they know who you are. Okay. And lastly, this is where our YouTube channel is. So check us out. Okay. And hopefully you benefit from the videos that are posted there. And these are some other really helpful websites for you. How to apply, immigration website. Processing times, always good. Recommend looking at that. After you apply for your study permit, the application tracker is great. So it's after you do that. So then you know where your application is through the process and you plan accordingly, which is great. Okay. Need support? You know where to find us. You can either email. There's 2 email addresses here, immigrationadvising@acadiau.ca. You can also contact international at acadiau.ca, or you can call us as well between the hours of 8:30 Monday through Friday, except for holiday. Okay, and I think we're at the end now, and we're going to be doing a quick Q&A. Over to you, Sadia, and I'll let you manage